Hi, welcome to the other 167. For our meditation today, let us turn to the Old Testament of the Bible, 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 8 to 23. The title of today's message is The Wisdom of Elisha. Elisha was a great prophet of God. During the time of Jehoram, the king of Israel, Israel and Syria was at war. Whenever the Syrians set up camps, the man of God Elisha went and told his master, the king of Israel, and every move of the enemy was foiled. And this baffled the king of Syria. Who is revealing all this secret to the king of Israel? Then one of his officers came and told the king of Syria, "None of us, my lord the king," said one of his officers. But Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the very words you speak in your bedroom. King was very angry. He sent troops to capture the prophet, and they come to Dothan. The servant of the prophet gets up in the morning and sees the city of Dothan surrounded by Syrian troops. He was very afraid and comes and tells this to his master. Prophet says, "Don't be afraid." Prophet prayed for the servant so that he will see, and God opened his eyes and saw chariots of fire surrounding the prophet, God's protection around the prophet. And the prophet prayed, "Strike them with blindness." And the troops were blind. They were led to Samaria, which is the capital of Israel. They were now captives, and the king of Israel asks the prophet, "What shall I do with them? Shall I kill them?" The prophet tells the king, "Set them food and water, treat them well." So we see in verse 23, so the king prepared a great feast for them. Now after they had finished eating and drinking, he sent them away, and they returned to their master. So the bands from Aram, that is Syria, stopped raiding Israel's territory. There are 3 points I would like to bring out in connection with wisdom of Elisha. 1. Elisha handled the crisis situation with wisdom. There is a crisis. He forewarned the king of every move of the enemy, and God revealed the plans to the prophet. 2. With wisdom of God, Elisha could see with the eye of faith. His servant could not see the chariots of fire, but the prophet perceived what God did to protect him. 3. With the wisdom of the prophet treated the enemy with kindness and generosity. How do we apply this to our life? We need to pray to God to grant to us the wisdom so that we will be doing things in the right way. Wisdom is applying knowledge and information in the right way. We may speak the right words aptly, react to situations in the most dignified way, handle situations appropriately with wisdom. Paul, when he was writing to the Galatians, there was an issue in the church. The Jews who came to Christ were already circumcised. They insisted that others like Greek who came to accept Christ should also be circumcised. So Paul said, "No." With God-given wisdom, Paul wrote a beautiful epistle to the Galatians, very reasonable, logical, to say that we should not insist the custom of circumcision to those who accept Christ who are not Jews. And how does Paul write? In one of his verses he writes, "You foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you? Before your very eyes Jesus Christ was clearly portrayed as crucified." And Paul comes to the point in verse 2 of chapter 5. "Mark my words, I, Paul, tell you that if you let yourselves be circumcised, Christ will be of no value to you at all. So Paul brings on the point with grace and dignity and wisdom is not required. So we should be people with wisdom. Through wisdom, like Elisha, we should pray, God give us the gift of faith. Faith is trusting God in all situations, irrespective of the outcome. So we should simply lean on to God because He is sovereign and is good and Almighty knows the end from the beginning. So we should trust God and put a faith in God. Ask God for the wisdom. Through wisdom, God will grant us the faith. And like Elisha, through wisdom, we should be able to treat everyone with dignity. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 12 says, hatred stirs up conflict, but love covers all wrongs. So we should be praying to God. God grant us the wisdom so that we will handle all situations with wisdom, properly, in the right manner. We will not lose hope and confidence, but you will grant us the faith and courage to overcome all situations through your wisdom that you grant to us. Grant to us the wisdom so that we will treat everyone with dignity, kindness, and generosity, like Elisha treated the captives who were brought to Israel. May God grant us this wisdom from above. It is not the worldly wisdom, but God-given wisdom that will take us through, and God will be delighted. May God bless us and grant us wisdom. Thank you.